need to be involved, and as far as they were concerned, it had to be. It really just had to be, and I was trying to explain this in a, it was a convoluted way, because we were on a train, and I didn't want to miss my stop, so I had to keep thinking, okay, where are we? Am I losing track of time? I don't want to miss my stop. But yeah, I was saying that that really, essentially, the current system, it uses people as wage slaves, and so because I remember I used the phrase "so many people," and I think I was also it was also in reference to how so many people have a job that wastes their life and that they don't want to do. And I was accused of making a sweeping generalization. And when some people, it was said as though it's something that she says quite a lot. It sounded like it was definitely a phrase that she uses a lot, because phrases like this tend to be used a lot by people who don't necessarily want to think about the information they're being presented with. But she's such a sweeping generalization. It's almost like she's been in so many situations where people have made sweeping generalizations that she's getting tired of calling it out. That's the tone that she had. But the thing is, I mean, I haven't got a dictionary in front of me, but generalization, people generally think that is a statement made about all of one particular category of people. But general, isn't that supposed to be something that applies widely but not to all? But even then, I wasn't even making a generalization. If you want to be, pernickety with the language, I wasn't even making a generalization, because I was saying so many people. And I said there's over 7 billion people in the world. Surely the word "so many" would not be something that applies to all of them, or even the vast majority. But yeah, I mean, I even one thing that I should have said to her, because I did take a few days to really think about this conversation and realise where I went wrong, in addition to where they could not understand me, which is also partly because of my presentation style as well. But yeah, I mean, one of the things that I should have said is in terms of so many people hate their job and it wastes their life. I should have said, I tell you what, we're on a train right now. Take my hand, come with me, and we will do a survey of everyone on this train, and we will see how many people hate their job and how many people love their job. Right? Let's do it. Take my hand right now. Let's go. That's what I should have said, and it could have looked pretty cool because she was quite hot. But anyway, I should have said that, but I didn't. But yeah, it was at this point that another woman, this time to my right, she rose to put her 2 cents in to say one of the most disheartening things that I can ever hear come out of a human mouth, and that is that maybe positive change really is impossible. Maybe it won't happen. And to which I just responded, well, and you know what? With that kind of mentality about it, you'll be absolutely right. Thank hell that not everyone thinks exactly like that. But I didn't say all of that. I just said with that kind of attitude, you'll be absolutely right. Yeah, and I mean, I was meaning to try and get to exactly why that is, about why saying it will never happen is a self-fulfilling prophecy. I was trying to get into that, but then because I sensed that whenever I was about to get to a really good point, that when I'm building up to a good point that I'm making, it's almost like a comedian telling jokes. There's the feed line and then there's the punch line. Some of the explanations I have for things have a feed line of sorts and also a punch line. You know, it's sort of like a brief summary first, and then maybe a conclusion at the end. You know, so I'd experiment with a lot of different ways of explaining things. Analogies are good things that I like to use as well, especially if I'm able to think up good, relevant, applicable ones on the fly. But yeah, I mean, I think they could probably sense that I was getting to a good point, because it's like, yes, another person is being just as fatalistic as we are and saying that the world will never change for the better. That was what she was saying, and it really does dishearten me sometimes when someone actually, because sometimes I have to look at them and say, really? Yeah, because sometimes I prefer not to think that people could be that down on both themselves and the future of humanity. You know, so convinced that there is really no hope. You know, and to express so brazenly as though it were just any other kind of understanding. You know, and saying it just as matter-of-factly, as though it were, like, I don't know, some sort of geographical fact. Saying, you know, Africa, it is actually a continent. It's not a country. You know, she was saying it in that tone. You know, maybe, you know, you need to consider, because I think she said you need to consider that, you know, the world is not actually going to change. And it's when you have, you know, multiple people on a train, and they're all spouting pessimistic views about the future of humanity, and you know, it doesn't do much for your state of mind. But you know, I mean, I've been communicating with people about this sort of thing for years, so I know not to get, like, you know, emotionally torn up or get irrational or anything like that. I you know, make sure that I stay rational, at least. You know, that sometimes there may be raised voices on my part. You know, if need be, if the environment is a loud one, if there's a lot of different distractions, you know, I vary my vocal tonality. You know, I do different things to try to communicate well. But yeah, I mean, like, this guy came in. He was a new guy. He was like further along the train. He was an older guy, and he rudely cut in to ask me if I had a ticket. And you know, I said yes, I did. And he said, well, there you go. It costs money, so you should shut up. Yeah, this, ladies and gents, is it's like, it's two logical fallacies in one. One, it's the ad hominem fallacy, attacking the individual instead of actually providing a reasoned argument against the information that they're trying to communicate. In this case, the information that I was trying to communicate is that a dismissive attitude towards positive change is the best way to ensure that that positive change will not happen. Yeah, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That was the information that I was presenting, and so the argument he presented to that, because he'd also, overheard the entire thing that I was advocating a move away from the need for money itself. So he was trying to point out that because I used money to buy my ticket, that means my entire argument, and this is one of the things that, the girl that got this discussion started, she even said that ticket remark had disproven my entire argument, the entire train of thought that I was presenting, that she'd only become acquainted with 5 minutes prior. Suddenly a guy asks if I've got a ticket, and because money was used to buy that ticket, suddenly the entire train of thought of the scientific method applied to social and environmental concern, suddenly, because money was used to buy the ticket that I was travelling with, suddenly it's all been disproven. It's all done. All done. Really? Really? My entire argument? I mean, I even said to her, I tell you what, let's just say, I don't know anything about you, but let's just say if I've only known you for 5 minutes, like, it was like maybe 5, maybe 10 minutes. I said, say for example, I find out one flaw about you, right? Can I use that one flaw as a justification for saying that your entire character is flawed? For which she didn't give me a straight answer for that. She, was trying to deflect it, but others were coming in. This other guy was like saying, well, you're a hypocrite. When you use money to buy the ticket, and why are you saying that we don't need a system without money? But ladies and gents, this, it's both an ad hominem and it's a loaded question. Okay, if you're communicating to another person and advocating the transition and implementation of a sustainable world without the need for money, you better be sure that you're going to get the attack that, oh, do you use money? Well, yeah, there you go, you use money as well, so shut up. Right? You should expect this, right? So from now on, whenever I get something like that, this is how I'm going to respond. Because this is for the last E-Day, I did a presentation about using logic bombs, and this is a new logic bomb that I've created recently. I say, well, in that scenario, if I'd used it in this scenario, this is how it should have sounded. I would have said, okay, so if I were to raise the issue of world hunger, maybe I should shut up because I've got food in my fridge. Or something along those lines. Maybe I should say, do you think that the issue of world hunger suddenly becomes a non-issue and shouldn't be concerned about or shouldn't be discussed purely because you happen to have food in the fridge? If you have food in the fridge, should you shut up about world hunger? Something along those lines. Now, obviously, you're saying, but Adam, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Exactly. That's because this idea is two logical fallacies in one. It's the ad hominem, as I said, and the loaded question, because if you say that you it's especially in reference to something that you use money for, or that that they see that you've bought, because he also made reference to my boots, and he was trying to say, well, you bought your boots, didn't you? And my boots were actually a gift from my parents. So it was trying to say that I have rich parents because they gave me a pair of fucking boots. Oh yeah, my parents gave me a pair of fucking boots, therefore they're minted. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, it was like saying, yeah, not all of us can have rich parents like you. But the reason why this is a loaded question is because no matter what answer you give, they will just use that answer to say, see, there you go, you're a hypocrite. Even if that does not make any logical sense whatsoever. Alright? But yeah, this, ladies and gents, is the kind of logic that was used against Russell Brand in recent months. When Russell Brand went on the protest against the landlord thing. I mean, I can't even completely remember exactly what it was about, because even I was also successfully diverted by this. And that is the point of this tactic. It's to divert. Right? It's to get people to no longer think about the topic of discussion at hand, and now instead think about, oh, he's insulted him, he's said something about him, he's made it personal, oh, there's drama now. Right? So it derails it away from the discussion at hand. I should have actually just used more focus to keep it at the topic at hand, but even then, it doesn't matter what kind of question. It doesn't matter if you, a lot of the times, even if you ignore that sort of thing and try to move on, because people will pick you up on that. Say, yeah, you didn't answer this question. And this is one thing that these people did accuse me a lot of in this conversation. They accused me a lot of, diversionary tactic. And the girl that started off, she even said, you'd be really good as a politician, because they always avoid things, and I can tell, some of what they were saying, some of the accusations they were launching. It was an emotional attempt to try and get me emotionally riled up, because if I get emotionally riled up, then they've got complete carte blanche to say, oh, why the fuck should we listen to you now? You're preaching. Look at you. Yeah, even though that preaching was that state of mind that sort of facilitates the preaching was created by ignorant people winding you up by asking you questions and making assumptions about you, deliberately designed to get you angry, so they've got another excuse to reject what you're saying. But yeah, it's the same diversionary tactic. How many people? Because loads of people knew that. I think anyone who was aware of the whole Russell Brand versus the Sun situation, they were aware that the Sun were calling Russell Brand a hypocrite because he was saying something against some kind of living expense. I can't even personally remember what it was. He was arguing about something to do with living expenses, but he's a millionaire, so he's got no room to complain about it. I can understand the logic in the sense that he has no reason to personally complain because he's not personally directly affected by exactly what the other people were personally directly affected by in the exact same way, but the fact that he was out there speaking out against it actually doesn't show hypocrisy. It shows not an overextension, but an extension of empathy and compassion to another person who's dealing with something that they're not even suffering from. It's like a someone who's well looking after someone who has cancer. You don't have to have cancer to help someone with cancer, And if you don't have cancer and you help someone with cancer, then that's an act of compassion. It doesn't make it. And if you're well and you look after someone with cancer, and you think, you know what, we should do a better job of treating cancer. Does anyone say, well, you don't have cancer, so what do you know? You're a hypocrite. You're well. How dare you, Chris? Because it's the thing. It's a diversion tactic because it's a defence mechanism. People don't like to think that the very inherent structure of the system itself is flawed. It's presupposed to them, so it's easy. It's easy to accept something if it's presupposed as good, and even if it's not good, it needs to be predisposed as unchangeable. Yeah? You need to like what your current system does, and if you don't like what your current system does, then you need to be taught that you can't even bother. It's not even worth bothering to change, because it's never going to get any better. And this is exactly the kind of thinking that these people had, and it. I mean, I do admit it did get frustrating towards the end, because their minds were shutting down more and more and more. With every word that I said, I think some of their minds were shutting down more and more. But then again, there were a couple of times when I knew that I had at least reached their wall of critical thinking. The wall they put up around different values to not let critical thinking in or out. It's but yeah, it's strange. They accuse me of using diversionary tactics, when diversionary tactics and logical fallacies are their prime weaponry in this. Well, I mean, I dare say some of them thought that it was a bit of a debate, because when the guy came out and asked me if I had a ticket, I think I heard a couple of them say, "Yeah, he's got him there." The idea that you can refute someone with a logical fallacy, well, two logical fallacies rolled into one, it just shows how misinformed our culture is, that some of us actually think that by personally attacking someone, you've addressed and even that you've addressed, let alone refuted, an argument that someone has presented. I mean, this is why the fridge analogy is quite good for that. That if you have food in your fridge, shouldn't complain about world hunger. If you have food in your fridge. So, do you realise, with this in mind, do you realise how restrictive and even how tyrannical and oppressive such an idea is? When you think to yourself, if you're benefiting off the current system, if the current system is doing anything good by you, then you should shut up about its problems. To me, that's very dangerous. You know? Keep your mouth shut. Don't rock the boat. Now that's one thing that I used to hear when I was younger. Don't rock the boat, Adam. You know, protect the current system. Don't allow the current system, whether it's the physical infrastructure, the ideological infrastructure, or even the value systems, or beliefs, or knowledge that people are conditioned to uphold, and other knowledge they're taught to reject as mere communism that they can't even define. But yeah, I mean, as I said, he was asking about my boots, and you know, it got to the point where he asked about my shirt, right? And he used the words, "Did your mummy buy that for you as well?" He used the word mummy, and I chose to pick him up on this by asking, why do you need to use the word mummy? Please explain. Why do you need to stoop to? I mean, we're adults here. You know, we don't need to be using words to condescend to each other. Why are you attacking me? I was trying to understand why he was doing this, and he was just not providing anything. I think he was very offended, I think, by what I was saying. And when I say offended, all I mean is that, you know, a person is unable to control their emotions, and thus feels the need to hold everyone else accountable for that. Yeah, there's a certain stimulus in the environment that has had an emotional effect on them, and they couldn't manage their emotions properly. So, like, I want you guys to stop what you're doing because I can't manage my emotions. But yeah, he was getting very belligerent, and he was just not providing me with any kind of insight into how the impasse between me and him can be resolved. He was certain that I was wrong, and the reason for why I was wrong was because I was travelling on the train with a ticket that money was used to purchase. How that makes my argument incorrect, somehow incorrect, I have no idea. But I said to him, well, what does it matter how where I got my shirt from? That doesn't change anything about the information I've been communicating. But it was obvious that he couldn't sustain this angle that he started by us, and so he started asking me question after question, and just not giving me a chance to respond, just asking me loads of questions. Like, do I have a mortgage? Do I have a job? Do I pay my taxes? And asking me loads of these questions, like obscure questions as well, and using words that are defined numerous different ways. And he eventually, I was trying to ask him, can you please give me time to answer before you submit the next question? But I couldn't even get that out because he'd come up with the next question. He was really, getting really belligerent, and he settled on repeating, "Do you have freedom? Do you have freedom?" And I chose to sort of humour him there, because I didn't know what he meant by freedom. Because I said, freedom to wave my arm? Yes. Freedom to walk up the wall? No. So what do you mean by freedom? and he